The president of Iran is dead. Ibrahim Raisi was killed in a helicopter crash yesterday, along with the country's foreign minister and several others. Raisi was a hardline cleric who was close to Iran's Supreme Legal Death Commission, which ordered the extrajudicial executions of thousands of political prisoners in 1988. His current Iranian regime stands accused of sowing chaos in the Middle East through its Triple H proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas. So is the Middle East and the world a safer place today? In significant developments elsewhere, could Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu face arrest for war crimes after major announcements from the International Criminal Court? We'll debate that in a moment. But first, with a view from Iran, Professor Mohammed Marandi from the University of Tehran. Professor, thank you for coming back when I censored it. First of all, your reaction to the death of the president yesterday.
Obviously, everyone that I know is in mourning. He was a very popular figure. He was a very humble person. Very different from the description that you gave. He worked very hard for the deprived, the working class, the disenfranchised. He traveled from city to city, from town to town. He was constantly visiting the different provinces, and that's why he was so popular among, especially as I said, the more disenfranchised and middle-class, lower-middle-class Iranians.
I mean, you painted what many would view as a ridiculous picture of a man dubbed the Butcher of Tehran, somebody whose death was greeted by many women posting images of themselves celebrating his death because of the appalling suppression that he put them under. And we know that he was responsible for the deaths of many thousands of political prisoners. So I don't quite categorise him as the person that you're trying to describe to us.
Well, obviously, what you're saying is inaccurate, to say the least. I would say the butchers are in London, in Washington, the people who destroyed Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen during the disgraceful genocide there.
We need to deport all these sympathizers to these terrorist countries.
I think that the real monsters are actually much more closer to home. He was a part of the judiciary, and those people that you were saying were executed were, he wasn't executing people. He was in the judiciary at the time, and the people who
he was ordering.
The numbers are far less than what you
He was ordering to execute.
Actually, this is something that your government should be ashamed of. These are people who fought against Iran. They fought for Saddam Hussein as foot soldiers. They betrayed the country.
I can't believe it. With a straight face like this, you can speak. They're rubbish.
People, including President, Prime Minister, head of judiciary. A bomb explosion near my house when I was a school student. I was getting ready to go to school. It killed 9 to 11 people, including an Armenian family of 4. These are the people who you're saying they were murdered by Iranians. No, in Iran, no one has any sympathy for the MEK terrorist organization, which today has a major base in Albania, and it has offices across Europe and North America. So it is your government that's supporting terrorism. It is your government and your governments that are really the brutal regimes that
Professor, you came on
I don't know how we can listen so long
with the same smirk that you're doing it with this time. And the reason I find the smirk so irksome is because everybody actually outside of your office right now is looking at this thinking, is this guy for real? Given that Iran's tentacles in terms of terrorism
100%.
are very transparently flowing through the 3 H's as I described them.
Look, his smile, man.
Hamas. We know that your country, Iran, through its regime, has been responsible for horrendous terrorism now for a very long time. Why do you expect people watching these interviews when you do them to just calmly believe you when you say that all the bad guys are everybody else and the downtrodden, oppressed, much misunderstood people are the Iranian regime that is despised by so many people in Iran itself?
No, in Iran we'll see during the funeral ceremonies how popular President Raisi was. Just like
in North Korea, we see how many people cry. They're crying too. They're crying too, bro.
Just because in the West you say this sort of thing doesn't mean that that's the reality on the ground over here. Hezbollah was a group that was created as a result
I'll show you Hezbollah after it's finished.
Invasion of Lebanon.
Actually, I'll show you now.
The capital in 1982. Hezbollah was created as a result of this illegitimate and brutal occupation. They expelled the brutal apartheid ethno-supremacist regime from Lebanon. And Hamas and other groups in Palestine are the result of the 76 years of oppression, ethnic cleansing, and brutality and apartheid from this same regime. So when you speak about the Houthis or Ansarullah, you're talking about a decade of genocide carried out by the Saudis and the Emiratis, who are your allies, and your governments were supporting them. Your government starved the people of Yemen to bring them to their knees, but you failed, and you failed today as well. So
this guy is from Iran. Yeah.
9/11, we were told that Al-Qaeda
marching with the Hezbollah flag.
Attacks on the Twin Towers. Who was Al-Qaeda? They were working with you in Afghanistan. And then 10 years later in Syria, in Libya, Al-Qaeda was cooperating with you. We have an email from Jake Sullivan, February the 12th, 2012, where he sent to Hillary Clinton, where he said in Syria, Al-Qaeda is on our side. The dirty war in Syria, the dirty war in Libya is yours. These are your crimes and you cannot escape from it. So we are the victims and your ugly empire is guilty as it is guilty in the genocide today in Gaza.
I can't believe it.
How many people watching this around the world? There'll be a lot. We'll look at the situation with the current Iranian regime, and I think the word victim is appropriate. And particularly given that President Raisi, that you paint such a
he's assaulting us
as a human being, somebody who only cared about the downtrodden. This is a man who
listen here, man, you ugly man.
Hijab and chastity law, restricting women's dress.
That smile will stuck on your face forever, man.
22-year-old Masa Amini was detained in September 2022 by Iran's morality police for wearing improper hijab.
No, we don't give a damn.
3 days later in hospital, sparking mass unrest. That doesn't sound like the kind of guy you're trying to describe to me. It sounds like a guy who is trying to dictate to women how they should dress, how they should behave. Do you understand that in the West, we look at that as reprehensible behavior?
I don't know if he thinks that smile is okay.
You objectify women, you commodify women, and you sexualize women, and you have Epsteins and many Epsteins.
Listen.
Give women the freedom to dress how they wish. Why would you decline them that freedom?
In Iran, we have women pilots, we have women scientists. My boss at the University of Tehran, the dean of my faculty.
How do you know is a?
Years that I've been in
How do you know? You can see it. You can see it under the burqa or hijab. How do you know is a hair?
It doesn't work anymore, Piers. Your Western empire
How do you know is a hair or
the
him?
whole of the global South is witnessing the crimes that are being carried out by your regimes. And your declining regimes
How
are
dare
not
you calling a country regime, man? When we
students who are protesting genocide, you're not even crushing students who are protesting your own government for something that they're doing at home.
We have a freedom. Everybody can protest here. It's not like in Iran you're shooting them.
You can't tolerate
Monkey.
And your media is controlled by a group of rich people. They control the narrative, and you call that a democracy. Your choice is either Hillary Clinton or Biden or Trump. And then when that decision is made, the whole of Europe, Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand fall in line as good soldiers.
Of course, we are friends.
So
you don't have a friend. We got friends. Yes, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, USA, Britain. We are friends. We are brothers.
That is not
you
your
don't
concern.
have.
I'm asking you a question.
You don't have.
That is not your concern.
You have an answer for it.
I can't believe, man, with a straight face, this guy.
Freedom to dress within the cultural context of every society. Women and men do not have the freedom to dress any way they like in your country.
How
so
in
different
England
societies
your
have
women
different cultures.
dress?
Actually, I can dress how the hell I like.
Well, no, you cannot. You can then take off your clothes right now.
Exactly,
Don't talk nonsense.
I can take my clothes off if I wanted to.
Every society has its own culture. We don't follow.
But just to be clear, I mean, you're trying to avoid the question. Just to be clear, well, just let me ask you the question again. You're a smart guy, you're a professor.
Who's smart guy?
Do you think women
The smart guy in Iran.
No, I told you. I told you.
So once you know the Quran, you're a smart guy.
Women should have the freedom to dress the way they like, but in our culture, the sexualization, objectification, and commodification of women is unacceptable.
Every good Muslim understand you are wrong, mate.
Pushes women in
God,
that
I'll get you another lecture about my society. Just to be clear, what you mean is you would like to. You don't think they should, do you?
Women are pilots. Most of my university students are women.
Yeah. How do you know they're women?
Was a woman. I am an affiliate in another department as well at the University of Tehran. The last two people we hired as academics there are women too. You cannot misrepresent.
From which country?
From
which country they are? These women.
Are they
from Russia?
From
Kazakhstan?
Because actually you don't think they should.
That's why you cannot dictate them what to wear. But your women are sitting at home.
And just to be clear, okay, you can counter, and you can answer my question. Just to be clear, that would be within the realm of Iran's hijab and chastity law, would it?
I don't know the precise law, and I'm not going to get involved in that debate.
It was President Raisi who tightened enforcement of that law, so you must be aware of it. You're a professor. You're a very smart guy.
No, actually, I hope you're smart too. Mr. Raisi did not tighten the law, or he didn't.
I just want to show you guys
about the law.
his friends. Yeah.
You ought to know about it, or you don't.
I just want to show you his friends. 1 second. This is an Iranian guy. 1 second.
This guy you're trying to paint as some kind of saint, right, was somebody who led a draconian enforcement of how women in Iran dress, and that led to a young woman who was being detained by your morality police, and because she was wearing an improper hijab, and she died in hospital 3 days later, sparking mass unrest where more people got punished. That's the reality of this utopia you paint in Iran.
Guys,
it's a place that actually far from encouraging women to be these great champions.
This is a guy with 1 second.
Control them. And that was led by President Raisi. But anyway,
you want to keep talking. You want to keep talking because you want to run out the clock. Because we know quite well, and so do you, that your regime and your governments are the ones that are destroying our part of the world. And you're speaking about a law in
this guy this is an only weekend with a Hezbollah flag. That's an Iranian guy in London.
All other societies have to behave like yours, and that's not.
And then now I'll show you.
And you think that necessarily because a woman wears
another
a
one
headscarf, that
what
woman is
happened
somehow intellectually less, or that she's oppressed. That's your ignorance. That is your ignorance.
No, I didn't say that. If a woman, let me be very clear to you. If a woman chooses to do that, that's fine. It's the idea of people like you endorsing a law that orders them to dress in a certain way. I find objectionable.
Because in the West, increasingly, women who have hijab are being sidelined, losing their jobs,
the men
whether it's
only
in France, whether it's in England, and in other parts of Europe. So don't pretend that this is not the case.
Look.
But in any case, women in Iran, whether they wear a headscarf or not, most of the university students are women. And women
because
in Iran know how to deal with their rights much better than you. We don't need you, your government, and your system.
We don't need you too, bro.
You will see. You will see women take to the streets during the funeral, and then I will wonder how you're going to explain that away. Or is it North Korea and how the evil mullahs are forcing people to come to the streets?
Not all that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is.
When you have a morality police, you get told what your morals should be.
Exactly.
Morality police.
And you have, I see.
We've run down the clock, they're giving you more time than I intended to.
Just one final point. You have never been to Iran.
No.
You know nothing about Iran.
But I know many people who have.
No, you've never been to Iran.
Last time you came on this program, you tried to pretend that the regime has the widespread support of the Iranian people. It doesn't. In fact, it's believed as many as 80% of Iranian people loathe and despise your totalitarian regime.
In your wild dreams, that's the case, but you're the same person who gives a voice to the genocidal regime of Israel, and you advocate the devil.
Okay, we're going to have a member of the devil next on the program. Professor, thank you very much for coming back.
Thank you, God. Thank you, God. This guy's gone. Thank you. Wow.
Jonathan Enriquez. Great to see you in person.
Wow.
Your reaction, first of all, to that interview?
This was that was no interview, man. That was a
credit for appropriating all of the right Western liberal buzzwords in order to carry and represent a very backwards, cruel, brutal regime that, from my perspective as an Israeli who lives in Israel and intends on continuing to live there, is really the source of most of the instability, violence, terror and bloodshed that Israeli civilians face. And he does a good job at distorting reality. He lies very well and he appropriates Western culture. But I think for people that have basic knowledge of what's going on in the Middle East, definitely for Israelis who face the bullets and the terror and the bombs of Iranian proxies, that really doesn't strike a tone. And I think he's a good spokesperson, and maybe now that the Minister of Foreign Affairs died in an accident, he could represent Iran and he could do a good job of selling it to unwilling or unwitty people in the West, and they may fall for that kind of rhetoric.
What is your belief about the number of people in Iran who detest the regime?
I don't know. And it's very difficult to know. There are people at FDD, where I work, Foundation for Defense of Democracies, who track the amount of protests and unrest and the way that people in Iran voice their hatred or their dissent towards this oppressive regime. Sadly, there used to be a heat map of those protests around the country. That heat map is today totally black. The regime has been very effective, very harsh in actually taking down all of those protests, and most people are either dead or imprisoned or otherwise silenced. So they're quite effective. But the East German regime was quite effective until it wasn't. And the Soviet regime was quite effective and cast a long shadow until it wasn't. The Iranian regime, just like every other repressive regime, every other non-democratic regime, will go the same place, they have a place reserved in the trash bin of history. The ilks of that professor, even though he's very eloquent, he will be alongside the same people, and I think it will be a very good thing for the Middle East. It will be great for stability and prosperity in the Middle East once that regime is gone.
Do you believe President Raisi died in an accident, or, as some people believe, could it have been a deliberate?
Yeah, of course, that was obvious that people would think that it was something deliberate. Some of the enemies of the Islamic Republic, the US, Israel, as far as I know, and I have asked Israeli officials, did Israel have any part in it? Clear, unequivocal no. Israel didn't, and I don't think that the US had either. And we know from past experiences in Israel as well, helicopters do crash and people do die when they fly.
He was called the Butcher of Tehran. Was that justified? No?
For good reason. I've spoken with Mark Dubovitz at FDD. He's been following Raisi and his ilk for the better part of 25 years. The list of atrocities, of cruel hangings out in the middle of the street in order to terrorize other people to fall in line and to act in accordance with the regime, the executions, the rape, the torture. If the professor would be sincere enough to go on Twitter and look at testimonials of Iranian men and women who are now in safety in the West, telling their stories of torture and very cruel treatment of them, then the picture of who Raisi was would be much clearer. And yes, the Butcher of Tehran, I think, is a good description of who he was.
Will his death have any real consequence for the regime?
So, the second sentence that the Supreme Leader said in an audio message was, "Our dear citizens of Iran, do not fear, there will not be any rupture of services of governmental services," which is translated in plain language. Don't even think about revolting, because we have this under wraps, and this is not an opportunity for you to rise up. And I don't think that it will. I think that the Middle East will be a much better place once the Iranian regime is relegated to the dustbin of history, but I'm not sure that this is enough for that to happen.
Let's move to another breaking story today. This is the International Criminal Court seeking arrest warrants for various Hamas leaders and also for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on charges of war crimes, crimes against humanity over what's been going on in this war. These allegations, which have been put there against Netanyahu,
I think you cannot put Netanyahu next to Hamas, man. Still not.
Criminal responsibility for the following war crimes.
Come on.
And crimes against humanity.
I'm not agree with that.
On the territory of the state of Palestine in the Gaza Strip from October the 8th. Starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, as a war crime, contrary to Article 8 of the statute. Willfully causing great suffering or serious injury to body or health, or cruel treatment as a war crime. Willful killing, contrary to Article 8.2, or murder as a war crime, contrary to Article 8.2, B2, forgive me, 8.2. Intentionally directing attacks against the civilian population as a war crime, contrary to Articles 8.2. Extermination and or murder, contrary to Articles 7.1, including in the context of death caused by starvation as a crime against humanity, and persecution as a crime against humanity, contrary to Article 7.1. These are incredibly serious charges that the International Criminal Court has laid down. What is your response to this?
For me, this is a very sad day. As an Israeli, as someone who believes that I believe in the international system of law and order, for me, this is a betrayal. I see a power-drunk prosecutor overstepping his boundaries, overstepping his jurisdiction, and making a totally unfounded political biased decision against a democracy. If Raisi was alive today, he should have been subpoenaed and indicted. He never was. Neither was Bashar al-Assad. Neither was Muammar Gaddafi, or many other leaders who actually did war crimes and horrible crimes against humanity, were proud to do it, but they were never indicted. And to see these kinds of allegations, and of course the criminal court has to approve of it, of Prosecutor Khan's recommendations, and I really hope that the court doesn't, and upholds the last level of legitimacy of the ICC. They have an opportunity to do that. If they concur with the prosecutor, with the power-drunk prosecutor, I think this is a really black day in the history of the ICC. I'm sad to see it. I think they are morally unfounded, reprehensible, and really a prize for the ilks of the professor that spoke before, the Iranian regime, and terrorists worldwide. They are rejoicing.
There are many people who believe the following, that what Hamas did was a shameful terror attack, which took the lives of 1,200 people and wounded nearly 7,000 more, that it was horrific and completely unacceptable and should be condemned immediately. But who also believe that notwithstanding Israel's right, if not a duty, to protect its people, particularly given Hamas's stated intent to keep doing these kind of attacks, that the response by Israel has now gone way too far, that the civilian casualty toll in an area densely populated with so many of them being under 18, half the country.
Everybody criticizes Israel, but
whatever figure you take,
what's the solution? What would you do?
And women who've got nothing to do with this.
Nobody go answer.
This has gone too far. America certainly believes this and thinks that the next phase, the final phase, as Netanyahu has put it, of attacking Rafah, where there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people waiting to see what their fate may be, that all of this is too much, too far. That Israel needs to stop. What do you say?
I think that those people, I welcome them and I want to listen to their opinion, but I welcome them to live in Israel and to be in southern Israel and to understand that a simple civilian cannot live safely within their homes, in the internationally recognized borders of Israel.
Это очень просто. Даже если вы, как и я,
47 partition plan, 48 Israel, 49 armistice, all of the lines are on our side. Israelis cannot live safely as long as Hamas exists. Now, it would be easier for Israel, and it would be easier for Palestinians if Hamas came out and fought Israel, not hiding behind civilians. It would make life much easier for us, and it would spare a lot of civilians. But Hamas chooses not to, and they leave Israel with actually no choice. It's either forfeiting the responsibility to defend sovereign Israel and to defend Israeli civilians, or avoiding killing Palestinians. And unfortunately, what Israel is left with is two hard choices, but I think any country, any government, and whether you like Prime Minister Netanyahu or you don't, it doesn't matter. Any government has the responsibility to protect.
There's increasing evidence.
I agree with
Americans
this.
putting forward simply not working.
Every other.
Hamas is regrouping in the north, which is
Every other president of any country would do the
all
same.
you will achieve by going into Rafah
If
and
not,
killing in the process
the
of going
people
after
would
the
kick him
remaining,
out straight
Hamas
away.
battle groups. All you will achieve is killing thousands and thousands more civilians in the process, and that is simply not worth going after the remaining members of Hamas. That you've made your point. You've decimated Gaza. You've wiped out
That
those.
wasn't the point. The point wasn't to decimate Gaza.
No, I
as far as I
understand
understand.
that.
The point is
No, I
to
understand
defeat
that, but that has
Hamas.
been the consequence of the way the war's been executed. And, even for someone like me that has, often to great controversial response from pro-Palestinian groups, has consistently tried to take people back to October the 7th and say, you have to start from a place of condemning this appalling terror attack and understanding Israel has a right to defend itself. That there have to be limits.
Yeah, in terms of running the war, I believe that we could have been past taking Rafah already. 7 months have passed, and in terms of momentum, there's a military principle of continuity and that you keep the pressure on the enemy. We failed that. We didn't keep the pressure on Hamas.
I
We were
agree.
held
I
back
agree. Totally
by
agree.
Hamas dangling the hostages in front of us, and that allowed us to be sidetracked, sadly, out of a commitment to get our hostages back, our 128 remaining hostages. That was what delayed the invasion of Rafah. Now, many people told me and others that Rafah cannot be evacuated, that there's 1.1 million Palestinians there.
Where are they all going to go?
First of all, they already have went. They're not where are they going to go? They have gone. They have gone to the Muassi and they have gone to the outskirts of Khan Younis.
They all just left Rafah.
800,000, and again, I don't like quoting UNRWA, but I will quote UNRWA, 800,000 Palestinians have left Rafah as per UNRWA, and that's 3 days ago.
So how many are left?
So there's maybe 200,000, maybe 300,000.
So there were said to be 1.5 million there.
And they will leave as well. And in any area where the Israeli troops are, I would say that there's between 95% of the population has already
What are you
left.
actually trying to achieve here? Because you see your war cabinet of 3 people already splintering.
Yeah.
They can't agree on what happens next. Netanyahu, driven, it seems to me, by the more hard-right members of his cabinet, is being taken to a place which most people find completely unacceptable, where Israel will have kind of military occupation of Gaza in perpetuity going forward with no time limit. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see...
Neither does the IDF, and neither does the defense establishment, but I think that we're in a situation where, if we want to fast forward this, what's the aim?
You don't agree with that?
What I think needs to happen, what I agree with, is that Israel has to defeat Hamas. As cliched as it sounds, for there to be a different future
Well, what
for
does the future look
Gazans,
like?
for there to be a different future for Gazans and a different future for Israelis, Hamas has to be defeated, but not only defeated, not like the Taliban wasn't defeated. Hamas needs to be defeated in such a way that will inspire confidence with Palestinians to be brave enough to take a step towards a different
How do you
Gaza.
do that by killing all their
To
kids?
demolish them.
You don't. We try very hard not to
Yeah,
kill
but you
them.
are killing a lot of their kids.
Kids have been killed, but I think that there is
Do you know how many?
That's a good question.
Well, there's a question. I want to play a clip. This is from Eddie Hyman's interview I did with him, where he told me exactly how many Hamas terrorists have been killed.
Yeah.
And when I tried to get him to say how many civilians, he said this. So how many civilians do you believe you've killed?
We don't have exact figures, as you know, it's the fog of war.
That's quite extraordinary. You're an official spokesman for the Israeli government, and you have no idea how many civilians you've killed.
It's not that I don't know, I'm not authorised to give the information, I don't
Exactly.
have
That's
the information.
complete nonsense. Why are you authorised to give me the number of terrorists you've killed and not the number of civilians?
Because it's their secrets. Simple as that.
Can you explain?
Ukrainians don't say how many people die. That's a secret. Why should the enemy know
don't
that?
have that information to give
Why?
to you. You can ask me
Why you have to
over
tell
and
your
over. I'm not
enemy?
gonna come up with more information. I don't personally have that.
I mean, he didn't seem to know, but I found it extraordinary that he wanted to sound convincing that he knew exactly how many terrorists had been killed by the IDF, but he wouldn't prepare to even give me a ballpark figure of civilians.
Right, and the ballpark figure that I have, based on IDF and also what the Prime Minister said a few days ago in an interview in one of the American networks, is that we're talking about 18,000 civilians as opposed to 14,000 or perhaps 15,000 combatants. Those are the numbers I know, but we have to be fair.
How do you know?
Exactly. We have to be fair. Nobody really knows. Counting dead terrorists is a very difficult thing to do, and counting dead civilians or non-combatants sometimes is even more difficult because all of the combatants dress as civilians. So
you don't really know, do you?
It's difficult to know. There are assessments made in good faith by the Israeli intel, by the Israeli military, that take different sources. UNRWA, Hamas Health Ministry, Hamas propaganda, and what our troops see on the ground as well, and then they compile it together and they give an estimate. And this has been said that we estimate that there's such and such many people killed. It's, I think, much better than what Hamas and the UN institutions have been doing, which is just peddling false information.
Let me take a look.
Legitimacy.
So you think that the Rafah invasion should happen?
I think that Israel has no choice but to defeat Hamas.
So take me through what happens. You go through Rafah.
Right. Take out the tunnels.
You take out the tunnels, hopefully. Right?
Hopefully you find the hostages.
At what point do you know you've got rid of Hamas?
Also a very good question, and I think that's a combination of military capabilities, leaders. We have to take symbols, either Sinwar or death, or the two of them, and some type of moment where enough Hamas combatants understand that there's nothing left to fight. As long as the tunnels are open, Hamas knows that the moment the Israeli troops withdraw from Gaza, they will rebuild their capabilities and they will be able to come out of hiding.
How do you kill the ideology?
You don't kill the ideology, just like ISIS.
And how do you not expect that ideology, which fueled October the 7th, not to be equally fueled by the slaughter of so many children?
I don't think that there was what you described. I don't think that is the case. I think that Israel has gone
What happened to the Germany? Why the Germans stopped there and never relaunched it? Because they realized they was wrong. That's what happened in Gaza.
Okay, that's an argument, but you can't deny there has been a mass slaughter of children.
No, I wouldn't put it in those words. I would say that yes, unfortunately, non-combatants have been killed, and it's regrettable.
But so many children have been killed.
Children have been killed, women have been killed.
If you lost a child in this, why would you not gravitate to the ideology of the people who want to hit back?
I've lost friends. I've lost friends on the 7th of October. Civilian friends. I've had friends whose bodies are held by Hamas. I have a friend. He's military, but his body has been held by Hamas and his family is in grieving without a tomb to cry on. That doesn't turn me into a raving jihadist just because my enemies are cruel to me.
Bravo, bravo. People listen. This is a normal human being.
Israel is not to kill civilians. We are doing a lot in order to minimize the killing.
What happens once this war is over, and thank God please that it ends sooner rather than later?
Piers, you start believing God?
I mean, who runs Gaza? Netanyahu seems to be moving, as I said, towards a place where there's a military occupation, an Israeli military occupation, which is exactly what my next guest will almost certainly say. That's exactly what has got us to this place in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's what's missing at this current stage is a clear Israeli plan that has US backing and regional buy-in that says this is the alternative to Hamas.
What do you think it should be?
I think it should be Palestinian rule based on civil society.
Which
Palestinians? That's exactly why I said in the beginning that first Hamas needs to be defeated. Until Hamas is defeated, they will be the fallback. There will be a Hamas 2.0 if they are not roundly and decisively defeated. Once they are, and I believe that they can be, contrary to what many people think, believe, or wish against Israel, I think that Hamas can be defeated for the better for Palestinian civilians and for the better of Gaza.
So the Palestinians would run
I was going to say that what if the Western educated Palestinians form the government? But I have to say, the Western educated Palestinians are more radical. I swear. I don't know, but that's how I see.
Gaza.
First of all, I think we have to talk about an interim period. This isn't going to be democracy in an instant. It's going to be a transition period. There will need to be some kind of international helping hand. American, Arab, Israeli. We will have to make sure that it doesn't become.
And does that lead to the formation of a Palestinian state?
I don't know. I think that why
shouldn't they be allowed their own state?
I think that there should eventually be a peaceful solution to
why shouldn't Palestinians, which they haven't had for many decades now, why shouldn't they have exactly the same rights as you do?
Frankly, first of all, rights is a different matter, but what they have shown through corruption, poor leadership, and a draw towards extremism is that they aren't
Your own Prime Minister is facing corruption charges.
He is indeed.
What's the difference?
Well, there is a difference between the Palestinian Authority, between the Palestinian.
Благодаря платформе Revolut я заработал себе на Теслу. Еще полгода назад я работал за 15 евро в частной стройке, а сейчас я зарабатываю...
You say that there's corruption on their side. There's alleged corruption on your side.
If you ask the average Palestinian how corrupt the PA is...
Listen, corruption where the people
Mahmoud Abbas is in his
got big wages and they live cool is not really affecting them. But country like Gaza, corruption is really affecting each family.
Is Benjamin Netanyahu the solution to anything here now? Because most Israelis, from the polls I've seen, they support finishing this war, but they do not support him remaining as Prime Minister once it's over.
I think that's correct. And what I think we need in Israel, I think that what we need in Israel is unity around a leadership that has the trust of the Zionist majority in Israel.
Who is that person?
Yet to be really established, but it definitely...
Who would be a candidate for you?
Well, there are many. There are many.
Give me a good one.
Well, I think that there are... I don't want to get into politics and give my endorsement.
No, I'm just curious who people like you may think could be a contender for that very crucial position going forward.
I think that what needs to happen now is for a process to start whereby the trust of the Zionist Jewish population is re-won by the leadership. That isn't the situation today, and of course our enemies are benefiting from it, from the fact that there is not enough cohesion and that we're lacking in unity. And as you said, the cabinet is struggling in providing a strategy going forward that serves Hamas, it serves the Iranians, and it serves the Palestinian Authority. Sadly, it doesn't serve the Israelis.
I mean, the one lesson we've learned, surely, from this millennium is don't start a war if you've got no plan for after the war ends.
Well, Israel didn't start it.
They would say on the other side that this didn't start on October the 7th.
Yes, they can go back to the Balfour Declaration and they can go back to 1882. Really less significant from my point of view. Israel has offered the Palestinians 4 different opportunities.
Yeah, actually, it was. You cannot deny this. It was.
And they were sincere offers with maps, land swaps, population swaps, etc. And all of those very honest and sincere proposals got a no, because no Palestinian leader until this day has been able to say, yes, I want to end the conflict.
Okay, Lieutenant Colonel, thank you very much.
Thank you
for joining me. Well, I'm joined now by the founder and leader of the Palestinian National Initiative, Mustafa Barghouti. Mustafa, welcome back to Uncensored. We had a rather fractious debate involving you last time, so this time I'm going to give you a bit more time to say what you wish to say.
Right, I just want to remind you who this Mustafa is, yeah. On the previous show, he was shouting to a woman journalist, "Shut your mouth, shut your dirty mouth, shut up." That's how he was speaking with a woman, yeah, and I don't understand why the Piers lately bent down. Look, he just invite 2 enemies of the Britain And the only one, Israeli. Not even British. Not even British speaker to answer all the Iranian, the crazy guy, whoever called this regime and the killers and the... Come on, he's from Iran. Yeah? And then now this one, let's listen what he's going to say.
Say without being shouted at or interrupted. So, first of all, I caught some of that interview there with the Lieutenant Colonel, who was explaining, obviously, the Israeli side of things, albeit not necessarily the view that Benjamin Netanyahu might have said to me if he gave me an interview, which he won't do. What was your reaction to what you were hearing?
Well, I'm afraid that Mr. Ricketts, your previous guest, could also be accused of committing war crime by calling for ethnic cleansing. In the beginning of this war, I think he is the one who called for the eviction of all Palestinians in Gaza to the desert of Sinai.
I don't think it was him. He's shaking his head.
Maybe it's not.
It's a pretty serious charge to make against someone who's sitting here saying it wasn't.
Look, this is a level of this Mustafa. Piers, why you are inviting these people? Don't you see they're enemy of the Britain? Not only Israel. Okay, we don't care, yeah? We can say. But they are enemies of your home country, Britain, our country. Come on, man. What are you doing? It's ridiculous. I have to say I like Piers Morgan, but whatever's happening lately, I don't know. He's been bullied or what happened. I don't know. Let's see. Let's listen.
Well, that's what Netanyahu said. That's what the spokesperson of the Israeli military at the time said. Okay, but it wasn't you. It was somebody else. But that's exactly what they called for. And in my opinion...
Do you understand what he said now? Oh, okay. If it was not you, it was someone else then. It was someone else in the Gaza said, you need to kill all Jews. So, yeah, get it back. Okay.
Opinion, the claim that Palestinians don't want peace and don't want a solution is absolutely incorrect. If that was the case, why Israel does not offer now Palestinians?
Palestinians want a peace. The government of Palestinians, they don't want a peace. This is it, because in peace, they would not be in government. If peace comes to Palestine, there is no need for Hamas. This is why the Hamas do everything to don't stop the war. This is why the Hamas organized 7th of the October, because 8th of the October, the Saudi Arabia and the Israel was signing peace deal. It's so simple. You guys think we all forget all this, you know, by watching your marches every Saturday, up and down, up and down. Or you guys don't realize it is not working? So Netanyahu don't give a damn about how many people you march on the London streets or New York streets or how many universities you guys block. Yeah? Netanyahu don't give a damn. Alright? Alright, let's listen.
The right to be free from occupation and a right to have a state of their own. Or offer us full equal citizenship in one democratic state where we can all have equal rights and equal duties. But none of that is acceptable to the Israeli establishment. And I don't know, I mean by that Netanyahu, it's also Gantz and Lapid and all the others who don't want to allow Palestinians to have the right to self-determination like everybody else. So what is their solution? If they refuse two-state solution, refuse one-state solution, their solution is ethnic cleansing. Exactly what is happening today in Gaza. And the solution is genocide. Look, I don't know how the Israelis look at themselves at this moment when their governments, their leader of their army, and their prime minister is being accused of war crimes in the International Criminal Court, and the whole of Israel is accused of genocide in the International Court of Justice. You cannot accuse every international court in the world of being anti-Semitic or being, as was said, drunk with power. The same man who issued this statement today, Mr. Karim Khan, was praised so highly for his charges of Putin. Now he has become a power drunk? I don't think so. I think the problem is that Israel...
There are people, with respect, just to jump in, so there are people you've not mentioned who've also been charged with war crimes today, and that's the 3 leaders of Hamas. Why have you not mentioned them?
Okay.
Of course, he's not going to mention this.
I'm not denying that this was another accusation, but
He's not going to mention this. Do you understand? So is a propaganda only? Doesn't matter if tomorrow Palestinians come and they butcher in front of his eyes few Jews, yeah? I'm sorry, I had to don't say stuff like this. My apologies, I didn't mean. Sorry. But, yeah, it will be denial. He's in denial now. 7th of October don't happen for him. Do you understand?
I think any proper investigation will
Do you
find
accept
out.
Hamas committing war crimes?
No, I don't accept that, but I think...
You don't think it's under the 7th?
Благодаря платформе Revolut я заработал себе на Теслу. Еще полгода назад я работал за 15 евро в час на стройке, а сейчас я зарабатываю от 400 евро в день и тяжелее телефона ничего не беру в руки. Все благодаря программе Revolut, которая работает полностью автоматически. Регистрация очень простая и занимает пару минут, а деньги вы получаете стабильно каждый день. Я захотел поделиться, потому что знаю, как тяжело и много вы работаете, но сейчас можно зарабатывать деньги просто сидя дома на диване. Регистрация ниже по ссылке.
Supercharge your business with...
Sorry, chat. Sorry, chat. Sorry, chat.
War crime.
Yeah.
let the investigation take place.
I took it.
Let the investigation
Well, hang on, we know what we saw. We know what we saw.
Wait.
We know what we saw from their own GoPro technology. We know what Hamas wanted the world to see that they perpetrated that day. It was indisputably a terrorist attack. It's indisputably a war crime. I find it extraordinary if you want to start lecturing the Israelis about committing war crimes and genocide and so on, that you would spare Hamas the charge of obvious self-admitted war crimes. They were boasting about it.
Okay. The prosecutor general is accusing Israel of committing war crimes, accusing Netanyahu and the head of the Israeli
No, he's also accusing Hamas.
Wait, let me finish. Okay, I'm going to come to that. Accusing them of causing starvation to the whole population and accusing some Hamas leaders of committing war crime on the 7th of October. Okay, let an investigation take place. Let the Israelis allow an international commission to come and investigate. Let them accept the judgment of the International Criminal Court.
So just to be clear, do you accept that Israel?
No.
So do you accept? Hang on. Do you accept that Israel then should be afforded the same respect? That you should not jump to conclusions about whether Israel has perpetrated war crimes. That Israel may not have committed genocide, as you put it. Do you accept that if you want to spare Hamas any too preliminary conviction, you would afford the same courtesy to Israel?
Except that Hamas is not accused of genocide in the International Court of Justice.
They didn't say they perpetrated genocide.
Except
that
Israel now is accused of plausible genocide. And most probably the court will come up with the fact that there was genocide. 15,000 children, Palestinian children, were killed by Israel. More than 45,000 Palestinians were killed, if you include 10,000 that are missing now under the rubble. Most of Gaza has been destroyed completely. Who can justify that? When people were deprived of water, my medical teams, I'm a medical doctor, I'm not a gunman like the one you are invited here. I treat people, I don't kill people. Our medical teams in Gaza tell me today we have about 1 million people in Gaza suffering from terrible diseases, including the outbreak of infectious hepatitis, including deprivation because of lack of water, including parasite infestation, including skin infections. How can you put a whole population, regardless of what happened on the 7th of October, how can you put 2.3 million people and subject them to this terrible inhumanity?
Well, as you would have heard, as you would say, I must be able to ask you questions.
Last point, if you allow me, just one second. It's time now for Israel to realize that no more impunity, neither for Netanyahu nor for the Israeli Minister of Defense Gallant, nor for anybody.
What about Hamas?
No more impunity.
What about Hamas?
No more impunity for anybody.
Okay.
Everybody should be presented and let the investigation show.
Right.
I am sure it will not show that these leaders in Hamas were war criminals.
Yeah.
It will show that Netanyahu was a war criminal.
You don't think that what happened on October the 7th was a war
I
crime?
lost a small
Ordered by war
visual. I
criminals.
was in the floor looking at
No, because the history did not start on the 7th of October, as I told
So
you.
are you saying, Mustafa, that you think that what happened that day was justified?
No, I'm saying I am against, I repeated that many times in your program, and I am very clear. I am against the killing of any civilian. I am against the killing of any child. I am against the killing. Israel has not yet shown the names of the 30 children they claimed were killed. But I don't mind. Any
1,200 people were killed. 1,200 people were killed.
No.
6,700 were wounded. It's one of the worst terror attacks in modern times. I understand your anger towards Israel and the scandalous response. I share some of that anger. But what I find utterly perplexing is that when Hamas literally broadcast to the world deliberately footage of what they're doing, where they're committing war crimes against civilians, when they've kidnapped babies, when they've kidnapped Holocaust survivors, when they've raped and killed women, when they have burned people alive in their homes, when they've done all this and proudly boasted about it, the idea that isn't an obvious prima facie war crime right in front of our eyes that the perpetrators want us to know they're doing and committing. The only reason you wouldn't categorize that as a war crime is if you believe in some way it's justified.
No. I'm saying I'm against the killing of any child, or I'm against the killing of any civilian, or whoever they are, Palestinian or Israeli. But you cannot deny the fact that nothing in the world could justify the killing of 15,000 Palestinian children. That is the reality. And the reality today is that Palestinians are, at this very moment,
there were many who may agree with you, but what could justify the killing of 1,200 people on October the 7th?
No justification of... No, many of them were military people in a fight. Wasn't there?
There were 300 military people.
Okay, so you can't say
900 civilians, but there were 6,700 more people who were wounded.
In comparison to 45,000 Palestinians, 72% of whom are children and women. Look, we can go about this for a long time, comparing figures. The question today is who is being slaughtered at the moment? Why this war continues?
Because Israel wants to get rid of Hamas.
No. What is the justification for Netanyahu for killing his own prisoners, which he calls hostage, now by bombarding Gaza?
Why are they being held hostage? Why are they being released? Why are the hostages being released?
Because Netanyahu refuses to have an agreement, to release them, to have them back safe.
And what's the kidnapping of those? What's the kidnapping? Mustafa, what's the kidnapping of those people? What's the kidnapping of those people? Over 200 of them, including the elderly, Holocaust survivors, babies, young girls. What's the kidnapping of those people a war crime?
Kidnapping children is unacceptable.
Was it a war crime?
Civilians. But if
Was it a war crime?
You have to differentiate between soldiers and civilians.
I'm talking about civilians. A baby, last time I checked, is a civilian.
If an Israeli soldier is captured...
No, I'm talking about civilians.
No, you tell me. Is he?
Let me ask you again. I'm talking to you about babies and elderly Holocaust survivors. They're not soldiers.
You don't say anything about the fact that we do have now 14,000 Palestinians.
I've just literally been taking my IDF guest to task over that. You want the world to condemn what Israel's done by way of response.
I can't
believe. You will
believe.
not accept the kidnapping of over 200 people, including many civilians, including elderly people, including young girls, including babies, that is a war crime. You can't accept it.
You can't equate, and you will not
accept it. You will only accept war crimes the other way.
You can't keep interrupting me. Now I have another interrupter now. You ask a question, let me answer. You cannot equate between the oppressor and the oppressed. You cannot equate between the occupier and the occupied. You cannot negate the fact that since 1948 we've been subjected to ethnic cleansing by Israel, where 70% of the Palestinian population became
they would destroy you.
You cannot deny
by
the
now,
fact that we have been subjected
Israel
to
made a big mistake. Anyway, they're calling a
You cannot deny the fact that Israel conducted 1 million
killers and
you cannot deny that what Hamas did was a terror attack.
And you cannot deny the fact that I am against any attack on any civilian, whoever they are.
You don't condemn it.
You only condemn it on one side.
That are committed against Palestinian people. And you are not being fair. Because if you are fair, you would say that what these war crimes that the International Court of Justice is saying should be met, should be responded to. How can you deprive people of water? A whole population, 2.3 million people. You deprive them of water, of food, and then you talk to me about humanity, and you talk to me about war crimes. The reality is very clear here. Why don't the Israelis engage with us to have peace? Why they don't respect us as equal human beings?
To fucking stop shooting rockets.
Why they don't accept the right of Palestinians to be democratic?
You know, this is what Palestinians are.
And refuse to allow free democratic elections in 2021.
Okay.
Had we have these elections?
Look, guys, in reality, what's happening, is a fact that the Hamas peace, they don't want a peace, In any peace life, Hamas within 2 years will be prosecuted by the normal judges. Because they killed so many own ones, politicians, opposition for them. So many, they don't want a peace. And these poor Palestinian people, they're really victim. They're victim, half of them without knowing. They put so much because it's hard to say. Look, Israelis shooting after you shoot, Of course, the kids dying because, look, all normal armies standing in front of the people, defending people. The Hamas is shooting and it goes in the tunnel. Come on.
I would say
would not have had this war.
Mustafa, I would say to you, Mustafa, by way of response, from what I think, is that I think Palestinians should absolutely be entitled to exactly the same fundamental human rights as any Israeli. There should be a Palestinian state as much as there's a state of Israel. And there should be a concerted international effort to make this happen. And I think that Israel is going way too far right now with what it's doing in trying to get after the last remaining members of Hamas. I think it would be a spectacular act of self-harm, never mind the harm it's doing to Palestinian people. But I also believe that if you're going to be fair-minded about this, you have to call what happened on October the 7th a shameful terror attack on many thousands of Israeli people, and that should be condemned unreservedly by absolutely everybody. And people who refuse to condemn that, or want to condemn Israel for its response, I found that a very untenable position to give too much credibility towards. You got to condemn.
You already gave,
Mustafa,
man.
I appreciate you coming
You
back
invited.
on Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look, 1 second. Now we speak a little bit. I've got something to show you guys. Right? This guy, he forgot He forgot. It's fact that he forgot that everything started 7th of October. If not the 7th of October, today would be a peace. And Hamas not hiding this. They would again and again. And they don't mind, man. They don't mind. They're gonna keep repeat. I don't know what we're gonna do, guys, but Britain, London is infiltrated by the jihadists, unfortunately. Yeah, I just want to show you one video. And, but wait, don't tell me I close it. Don't tell me I close this video. 1 second, sorry. Sorry guys, sorry. Just a second. Before I show you all this, 1 second guys, before I'll show you all this. Before I show you this video, I wanna tell you what happened. As you know, every Saturday in London streets are pro-Palestinian marches, where these marches attract a lot of radical-minded people. Most of them are Islamists. First, they start after 7th of October. First, they start hating Jews, and after time is gone, and their marches start shouting, death to UK, death to USA. They calling our countries terrorists, no hiding, nothing. So this Saturday, this gentleman, you can see on the video now on the screen, he is a Iranian Islamist who hates everything Western, and his hatred toward Jews reached peak. So he was marching on this Palestinian marches with Hezbollah flags, shouting also all kind of rubbish as well. So obviously some of the English bloggers and the journalists saw him. So today, this Saturday on the march, one of the journalists, his name is, sorry, my apologies. God, what was his name? Potkin. His name is Potkin. He's got a YouTube channel, Potkin. Please follow him for him support. He came to him and they start asking questions. How much money the British government pays as a benefit to him and his family? Have a look what happened now. You're not gonna like. And I tell you in front, the police did not have this footage before. Well, let's look. Look how it became ACTA in a second. Look, guys. Just look his hand. Watch, watch. And there look police. Look the police, what's the police doing? They're shouting, don't resist. The man is not resisting. Did you hear that? And this is not all. This is not all, guys. I just want to show you even better one now. Even better one. Yeah. After all this happened, what happened? You're gonna laugh, guys. You're gonna laugh. Look what. Look. They called him ambulance. Making blood pressure. This English journalist got prosecuted. I hope now the police have the prosecution this video and they will act. People like him. His name is Ali Alizada, Iranian dissident, or dissident is calling himself, immigrant, which came to the United Kingdom as a political, but in here is defending politics back home. This is how they was avoiding the system, immigration system, for the last 20 years, 30 years. I have to say, I'm foreigner myself, and I don't like, because the English people are getting fed up, and when they get angry, they're not gonna look, oh, you are a good immigrant or you are a bad. Do you understand this? And I wanna pass a message to all immigrants. If you see a guy like this, stop him straight away, because tomorrow the people are friends. The people who helped us, we came to this country, we got great help, guys. And you need to be just bastard to don't see this. I want to thank you, all the British people, English people, Welsh, Irish, Scottish. Guys, I love you. For this, I want to thank you, and bye-bye, good night. That was meant to be just only Piers Morgan, but I got really, really angry about the Iranian guest calling our country terrorist state.